Hi class, this is now my fourth attempt to try to record how to do Excel Module 1, which I'll walk everyone through. Let me know if this is useful or not. I know you have observe and practice, which is really how we should be learning this, but I'll do the applies. So I'm going to have some things that are complete already, but I keep having some interruptions, so we're going to start over. So task 1.
Aligning cell contents horizontal
Is that we want to choose cell C3. So Excel is arranged in rows and columns. So C3 is manager ID. The gray area up top is called our ribbon, and each of these icons serves a task. So in this case, we want to use the alignment tab of the home part of the ribbon and the second button on the bottom to center that text. Next, we're going to hide worksheet grid lines. So when we see in an exercise anything related to view or hide, we go to the view button up in our ribbon. So we're going to do that. And to get rid of the grid lines, we're just going to tick this button under the show section of this ribbon, and those grid lines are gone. Now we're going to use this search box to search for a function called fill color. But first we want to select a range B4 to D4. So to do that, we left mouse click on B4 and go over to D4, and we're going to type fill color. And we're going to use the arrow, and our option for black text 1 is the second option on the first route. Task 4 is we're going to select a cell, and we've seen how to do that a few times already, but in this case we want to go to the column D, row 22, and we just click to select it. Task 5 is we're going to enter number as a text. We would actually really never do it this way, but since it's part of the exercise, I will show you. So we want to select J5, so we go to column J, row 5. We're going to hit the single asterisk button and type in 77112 and enter. Now we're going to enter a number in a cell, and we want to enter 491 into D6. So D6, and we just type the 491 and enter. Now, we use Excel mostly as a calculation tool. So the first formula or function we're going to learn is the sum function. And anytime we start a function or an equation, we start with the equal sign. So in B16, we want to have a formula using sum to add the values of B4 through B15. So we're going to do equal sum in capitals. We're going to do the left parenthesis, and we can choose B4 through B15. We can close the parenthesis and enter. So in Excel, there's a few ways we can copy things. We can usually right mouse click button on a cell and get a pull down menu when we say copy, but in this case we want to use something called the fill handle. So, and I'll show you how to reference that. So we want to use the fill handle to copy B7 to C7 and D7. So we're going to go to B7 and we click to highlight the cell. Notice this thick filled in square at the bottom right of this cell. That's our fill handle. So if we just click on that fill handle and we get this cross and we drag our mouse to C7 and D7 and release our mouse, we've copied that formula from one place to another. So this time, instead of using our fill handle, which is the most efficient way to copy, we're going to use the copy and paste abilities within Excel. So we want to click on cell B7, and again, I'm using a Windows computer. There are Mac tips if you click in our task list and go to Mac help. So if you're using a Mac, this is what you would do to get help here. But since I am using a Windows computer, I'm just going to click on B7 and right click and use copy, and then I'm going to click on C7 and see, once I hit that copy, we get this dashed line going around the circles. We call it the marching ants. So I'm going to click C7, I'm going to right click and do paste. So instead of copy and paste, I'm going to cut, which it means I'm going to take something out of a cell reference and actually move it to a new location and leave the old location blank. So we want to cut and paste the contents of I5 to C11. So we're going to go I5, which is this M-02. I'm going to right click and use cut. And then we're going to put it into C11. I'm going to right click and paste. Now we're going to, just like we did a sum function, we're now going to use the average function. And what we want to do is select cell B18, that's where we want this calculation to be. And now we know we have to use our equal sign. And notice we have a bunch of functions at this left-hand part of our ribbon. And we want the average one, so we can click it. And we want the range to be B5 through B16. So we're going to change this to B16 and hit OK. Now we're going to create a formula using math, plus, minus, multiplication, divide, to create a formula. So without using parentheses, we want to enter a formula into G4. So let's get to G4. That determines the projected salary less health care for the employee by adding the value in C4 to the product of, this is a complex one, so I have to read it a few times. So we're going to write a formula, so we're going to hit equal. We want the projected 21 salary minus our health care. So in essence, we're going to take C4, times it by 2%, and then deduct the parentheses. So it goes by order of operation. So we're going to go C4 times, which is our asterisk or shift 8, E4, and then minus F4. And hit enter. Ask is correct. Why? because I didn't read your question properly. So G4 is going to be okay. So it's going to be C4 plus, oops, that's not right. And I need to start over. Okay. Equal this times this plus this minus this. Okay, I'm going to show that again as I read the question a little more carefully. So in Excel, it uses our standard order of operations: plus, minus, multiply, divide. So in this example, we wanted to start writing a formula, so equal. We want to take C4, okay, and then we're going to go plus, times E4 plus C4, and then minus the healthcare deduction, and hit enter. Now we're going to use the max function. So now we want in D19 to see what the longest client is. So we're going to use max. So we're going to type equal, and it gives us max already, or we could type it, and we want D4 through D17, and hit OK. Now we're going to use min, which is similar to what we just did. So in D18, we're going to go equal, and it's giving us min automatically. More than likely won't do this, but it might. And we have the range already selected there, D4 to D17, and we hit OK. Now we're going to use the keyboard to use the function instead of our bar up here. So in B17, we want to use the keyboard. It uses the sum to calculate B5 through B16. So we're going to go equal, sum in all capitals, right parenthesis, B5 through B16, close the parenthesis, and enter. Now we're going to apply a cell style. Okay. So we're going to use the style section of our ribbon right now under home. So we want the bad cell style to be B8. So we're going to go to B8. We're going to do cell styles, and we want bad. And we see that the fill got a little changed. Now we're going to change the font. Font is over here in our home part of our ribbon. So in A2, we want to change this font to Cambria. It's set at Times New Roman. We want to go to Cambria, and we're good. Now we want to apply bold to a cell reference, and that's A2. We're going to click the B for bold under font or above font. Now we want to change the font size, which is in the same section that we just changed Cambria to. So we want A2 again to be 11 points. It's currently set at 12. So we use the tick and go to 11. And we're going to change the font color now. So we're going to be working in that same font section. So we want to change D9 to standard color section, column 8. So this is fill color and this is font color. So we want to change the font color. So we hit the down arrow and we're being told column 8. So 3, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8. And on our standard colors, which is way down here, we click blue. Now we want to merge and center a group of cells. So what that means is if we notice A2, it looks a lot bigger, and that's because we made this particular A cell, A2 cell, A2 column larger. See how it's different from A to B? So we want to take A2 to D2. So A2 to D2. We want to make this look like one thing, one cell without the lines. So notice merge and center. If we go under alignment, we just tick merge and center. And notice profit and loss is centered in that now much larger cell. Our next task is to apply the number format using the dollar sign. So notice in our home ribbon, under number, we see a dollar sign, that's accounting. So we want to change the way B5 through B16 looks. So we highlight it and click the dollar sign. We want to use the comma style, which is right next to the dollar sign, accounting, well, 2 over, sorry. So we want to put commas in C5 through C18. So we choose C5 through C18 and tick the comma. We want to do currency, which is in that same area, for C4 through C15. I wanted to show you the difference because see the dollar symbol? That's not going to get you currency. So we need to use the down arrow and switch it to currency. And it adds the zeros and decimal points. We want to change column C so that it's exactly 15 characters. So we're going to go down to column width, and you probably didn't see that. So I'm going to click on C, I'm going to right click and go to column width, and I'm going to type 15 here and tick OK. Now we're going to use a function in Excel called AutoFit to make a column bigger. Notice in D5, 6, 7, and an 11 and 20 we see these hashtags. These hashtags means there's an error, and that error is that it's not, the column isn't big enough to show the entire contents of that cell. So we could either go between D and E, and where we get this cross, we could click and drag it to make it bigger. But autofit is when we get the cross between D and E, we double click and we made that column bigger. So whenever we see insert into something in Excel, even we'll see this in Word and PowerPoint, we know we go to the ribbon and insert. Okay, so now we have a whole bunch of other tools available to us. So in this case, we want to insert a scatter chart, which is the first thumbnail in the scatter section in the insert scatter or bubble chart option in the worksheet based D4 through E10. So what we're going to do is we're going to click D4 through E10, and under insert we're going to go to where we have insert scatter or bubble chart, and it wants us to choose the first thumbnail. So we hit the down arrow, and the first one is our scatter, and notice it created a chart for us. And I wish we would have done some work on charting before we got to these exercises, but we'll get through it. Now we want to select non-adjacent cells. So our Mac users, you may want to use our Mac help for this section, but for Windows it's quite easy. So we want to select non-adjacent cells B11, so let's go to B11 and click it. B13, now we're going to hold down our control key on our Windows keyboard and click B13 and then B19. Okay, so now we've selected those non-adjacent cells. So again, I wish we would have created these charts before we started doing anything with them, but we're actually learning in a backwards kind of way. So we want to apply a chart style. And what's important for me to get through to you is look at the ribbon when I make any kind of action in our exercise here. So we want to apply chart style 5 to the chart. So to work on the chart, we have to click in the chart. And notice now we have chart design in format where we didn't have that before. And notice we have all of these things color coded and chosen now. That's where the data has been pulled from to create this chart. Okay. So now if we look at chart design, we'll see chart styles. We'll see colors here. We could add items, and if we went to format, we could format only things within this chart. But we want to go back to chart design, and we want to apply row 1 option 5 of these chart styles. Row 1 option 5. We want to move a chart to a chart sheet now. So move the stacked column chart to a chart sheet, accept the default sheet name. So we can click on our chart, and I want to show you the right click menu, and we see cut, copy, paste, which we've seen a bit before, but we want to choose move chart, and we want to move it to a new chart sheet and accept the name of the chart and use OK. And now we've moved that chart to a new sheet. Task 31 has us rename a sheet. So that's why when we first started today's exercises, I showed you the sheets on the workspace. So now we want to rename sheet 1, which is this tab right here, to sales. So I'm going to right click on sheet 1 and click rename, and then I'm just going to type sales and hit enter. And we're going to be back in our tab. See, now we have 3 different sheets within this Rockland Financial spreadsheet. So we want to change the color of sales by branch. So let's click to highlight it to green, standard colors, column 6. So we're going to right click and we're going to go tab color and standard colors. We want row 6, which is green, and we're good. So now we want to edit properties of this document. This brings us to our backstage view of our ribbon, which is in the file section of our ribbon. We want to edit properties by entering income statement as the title document property. So if we go down to options here, this version is a little different than mine. So I'm going to go to info. And where are you? I'm going to go to show all properties. And under title, under properties, we're going to change this from balance sheet to income statement. So again, we go to info. In the current version of Excel that I use, which is a little different than what we're teaching on, this option is in options for me, but in info we'll get this done and hit enter and click outside of that area. So we want to change the orientation. So what we're looking at is what's called portrait orientation, and notice that there's a dotted line between J and K. What this dotted line indicates to us, if we were to go file and print right now, we would actually get 2 pages out of the printer. What's in A through J, and then on the second page what's K through 11. So we don't want that. We want everything on one page. So we want to change our orientation to landscape. Okay. So I want to use this time to take us through all the rest of these ribbons. Notice we have table design. When we see these little drop down arrows and the colors of the cells, this indicates to us that this is a table or we've done some kind of sorting or filtering. Okay. So if I go to insert, again, that's where I insert all of the things we've seen today and at other times. Formulas was a great place to get those formulas we started to learn about. Data is really we're not going to talk about in our class. Review we're really going to look at in Word, not really here. View will just change the way we view. This is where we're going to see zoom, and we've already seen our show. And notice I went over page layout because that's where we actually want to be to show our orientation. And notice in page setup we have a bunch of options. So under orientation we're going to change it to landscape, and notice that dotted line went away. Now we want to change the scale of the worksheet to 70 for printing. So this is a very large sheet. So notice I'm going to show you some other functions here. We have different size paper we can choose. We could set a page area. We can do page breaks, which creates something new. We can put a background to this. We can print tiles. We can set up things again for headings and grid lines on our print, not just our working document. But notice we see scale here. We see it's at 100%, but we want it at 70%. So we can use the tick to drop us down to 70. Task 36 brings us to editing a cell's contents. So we want to change the text of Aster Communications to Aston.com. So I've chosen what my cell reference is, and notice Astor.com here. This is where we actually type into a cell. So let's just type what they want us to type. Sorry, Aston.com, and enter. Task 37, we're going to clear contents. And clearing contents doesn't mean we're going to go to A17 and hit delete. Okay, we actually have a clear function in our home part of our ribbon, and that's all the way over here under editing where we see clear in the eraser. So we want to clear the contents. So if we hit the tick here, we can clear all, which means we get rid of everything. Clear formats, we would just change the formats of what is showing up in that cell but leave the cell. But we want clear contents, which gives us a blank cell. Task 38, we want to undo something we've done. So we're being told change the font color of B4 to automatic. So here's the font color section, and we're going to automatic, and now we're going to undo it. So up here in this quick action toolbar where we see auto save off and the disk to save, this arrow means undo, and the one to the right of it means go forward after we've undone something. So we want to undo, so we're going to tick that. And our last task is to clear cell formatting. So we're going to go to D12, and we want to get rid of this formatting in back of the number 40. So we're going to use our clear and clear formats. And we've completed all the tasks, so when we're done with the assignment, we hit OK. And we could print or close or whatever. And we've assigned it, and I'm going to stop our video.